Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the AIM on MS&T podcast. I'm your host, Kate, and I'm so glad you have joined us today. If you are new here, let's catch you up. AIM stands for Academia, Industry, and Military, which are the sectors that form the foundation of the modeling, simulation, and training community right here in Central Florida. Together, they make up what is known as Team Orlando, a collaborative partnership driving innovation and mission readiness through MS&T. Each episode, we sit down with leaders and innovators within the MS&T world to talk about what's new, what's next, and why it matters, especially to our Team Orlando community. Whether you're deep in the field or just curious about one of Orlando's biggest industries, second only to the theme parks and hospitality industry, we're here to keep you informed, inspired, and part of the conversation. This episode is brought to you in part by Capital Communications and Consulting, telling your story across all platforms with a clear focus and innovative impact. Whether you want to elevate your message, grow your presence, or connect with the right audience, the C3 team will help bring your story to life. Learn more at mycapitalcommunications.com. Today, our guest is George Charos, President and CEO of the National Center for Simulation. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. First of all, before we get started, I'd like to thank Kate and Capital Communications and Team Orlando News. You guys have been great in terms of publicizing not only our industry, but everything that goes on with Team Orlando. And we appreciate all that you do as you celebrate. I think you've already passed 1 year with the broadcast. So congratulations, and looking forward to next year as well.
Thank you. You've joined us on the podcast a few times already, so we're skipping our usual intro questions and diving straight in. If you'd like to learn more about George or NCS, be sure to check out his previous 2 episodes. Let's jump right into it. Can you start by giving us a quick overview of what the NCS team has been up to throughout 2025?
2025 has been a busy year for us, and that's an understatement. We've done our typical Big 5 events. We opened the year with Membership Night last January, followed up with our very successful Lou Fry golf tournament, where we raised close to $60,000 for scholarships. We had our Florida Simulation Summit event in May. We had our B2B event in October, as well as our Hall of Fame ceremony just recently completed. And now we went into the back part of the year with a full representation at ITSEC. But besides those events, our organization, the word for the day is stealth. We do a lot of stuff behind the scenes to make sure this industry grows, this industry is defended. Our mission is preserve, protect, and set the conditions to grow the modeling and simulation business. And we've been challenged on that this year with the changes that have been proposed by the Department of Defense, but I think we were up to that challenge.
Now let's talk about one of your biggest changes this year. NCS recently moved office locations and launched the new Starbase Lab. What drove these changes and how do they help elevate your mission?
Well, actually, these changes were driven by our very generous landlord, UCF. IST, the Institute for Simulation and Training, has undergone a reorganization, and I think they're trying to freshen things up. And they approached us a few months ago and asked if we would be willing to change our location from Partnership 3 over to Partnership 2. And after we saw the space, noting that it's on the first floor, it's more space, a lot more windows, and the opportunity to expand our Starbase Lab, we jumped on the opportunity, and I have to really commend our team, Neil and Lindsay and all of our Starbase crew. They jumped right in, and I think within 30 days, not only did we move, we purchased a lot of new equipment.
Yeah.
We got it all set up. The Starbase Lab is a showpiece for STEM education, and we want to get as many people through there as possible. It's almost double the size of our previous Starbase Lab, so we can accommodate a lot more there, and we're really looking forward to moving things to the next level over there as well. So overall, we have a lot of new facilities here as well. We've even set up a little room where we can do visual podcasts, and so maybe we'll do this one next year with a camera in front of us. And we look forward, since we're on the first floor, if you're in the area, stop by and see us. We'll really enjoy interacting with members and everybody else in our community.
Shifting from internal updates to broader impacts, the Defense Transformation Initiative meant big changes for the military, and that made a big impact on Team Orlando. Can you talk about the impacts on the local community, how NCS helped to share the value of MS&T and its contributions to national defense?
Sure, but before I get into exactly what we did and the impacts on the local team, let me try to provide some insight and set up, how we got to this point, what I think the thinking was in terms of Department of War's thoughts in terms of realignment, and maybe that'll shed some light. So, back a little over a year ago, we got a new president, new cabinet, and taking all the politics out of it, because I try to look at these situations in terms of what do we have to deal with and how does it affect us, and do it really objectively. So if you look at the new administration, you've got a president who has been a president before. He also built a multi-billion-dollar real estate empire, and he did it by moving very quickly on his decisions. You have a vice president that's an attorney, and he also was very successful in the world of venture capital and private equity. You have a Secretary of the Treasury and a Secretary of Commerce who have both been extremely successful on Wall Street. So they have a mentality of building things quickly and mitigating their risk on their decisions. So if you think about the way they think, and I spent 10 years of my career dealing with those kind of folks. If you think about the way they think, they look at each decision as just one part of a bigger whole. And they like to move fast. So the bigger the investment or the bigger the potential impact, the more they'll analyze it. That being said, you're comparing that with what the government usually does, and they're looking at 2040 right now. They like to plan things out and really measure all their decisions and nail down every detail. The people that are running things now, that's not the way they operate. They operate that, okay, let's assess our risk. If it's a major investment, if we're 80% successful, that's great. We'll write off the other 20%. We'll move on. If it's a minor investment, if we're 50% successful, we're happy and we still make a lot of money. Yeah. And that's the way they think. Now, take our ecosystem here. We have $7 billion in contracts every year that runs through Team Orlando. Over, I think about $3 billion of that is PEO STRI. So look at that, and now compare that to the total defense budget, close to $1 trillion. We're less than 1%. So when you're looking at it from the top down, not only are we a small amount of the money, we're also sort of buried way down in these Army and Navy and Marines and Air Force organizations. Guys at the top really don't see what we do. And so as they make these big plans for transformation, that's one of the things, quite frankly, they say, okay, there's other stuff out there that's going to happen. It's going to be negative. We'll deal with it later. And that's the category we fell in. So what we did is we sat back and we found out about this in April. And we said, okay, we're not going to, the last thing the Army wants to do is hear us march up to the Pentagon and tell them how to do their jobs. B, PEO STRI and the Army here have really stepped up their effort in terms of letting those folks know what they do, why it's important. They've worked, quite frankly, really well with your team to make sure that message is getting out on social media and everything else. So what we said is, okay, how do we make the biggest impact to make things happen fast? Because we needed to do that. And the biggest impact we have is to go to Congress. So starting in April, several trips up there, several meetings. Really have to call out and commend our two senators, but primarily Rick Scott and Ashley Moody as well. But Senator Scott really stepped up and took ownership of this. He has made several calls, had meetings. Won't go into all that he did, but he was very influential to let them know how important this is, not only to them, but to this state. And, it was also very helpful that if you think back 10 years ago when we purchased Partnership 4 and Partnership 5 buildings, Senator Scott was Governor Scott, and he was the governor that approved the funding for these buildings, and he also set the stage for the state cabinet to approve the purchase of those buildings. So $42 million that he appropriated, he's got a big investment in there. The total state investment right now in these partnership buildings is north of $150 million for almost 500,000 square feet of office space. So, he's going to carry that message forward in terms of, not only how important it is to the state, but he knows that he was a big part of it and he doesn't want to see it go away. So we got a lot of good support from not only the two senators, but all the congressmen. We had two separate letters that went up from congressional representation, and we know that those were received and we know those had an impact. We have also, sung the praises of this industry to anybody that would listen, and kind of stepping back in time. When I took over NCS as CEO 6 years ago, one of the things I really wanted to do was make sure that we had Congress behind us. They knew how important we were, and the best time to get them educated on what we're doing is at a time when we don't need anything from them. So, I had plans to go up early 2020 to start that relationship or continue it. COVID hit, so I couldn't go. But as soon as we got to where we could get out of COVID and get up there, I started going. In fact, I think the first trip I went up there, I was one of the first few people that actually got in a house office building. And at that time, after COVID, you had to have an escort going anywhere you wanted. You couldn't just go in and start having meetings like we do these days and like we did before. So we started that process, and we've had now since then in addition to the meetings we've had two congressional delegation visits from NCS, board members and other members that support us, and we're planning our third one for next February. So they knew who we are, they knew what we were all about, and so we were not going in there cold as we started this, last spring. They already knew how important it was. We just had to go in there and shake things up, and that's what we did.
Can you expand a little bit about what happened in April regarding changes to the Army and the traditional acquisition process? How did that all affect warfighter readiness?
Sure. So part of the impetus for this reorganization of the Army is that they want to speed up the acquisition process. They feel there are too many steps, things take too long, the technology doesn't get rolled out to the field for years, and by the time it gets there, it's almost too late. So they really wanted to shake things up, and their way of thinking is that we can shake things up by taking layers out of the organization, because again, they come from a corporate world, and that's what you do. So back in April, we got wind that they were going to be really looking long and hard at this, and they were going to move fast. One of the other things we've done, just with a little bit of backdrop with NCS, is that for the last 2 or 3 years, we have really pulled together this group of past military commanders from Team Orlando. We've had 3 separate annual lunches. We bring them all together, and that's upwards of 20 folks from all 4 services. And they have been a great resource to us in terms of not only bouncing ideas off, but as you know, they have their ear to the ground all over the place. And if they hear of things happening, they will reach out to us and tell us, because we're kind of that trusted third party they can tell. They heard loud and clear. They told us, and that's really what got us moving forward to, evaluate and then go forward to educate Congress in hopes they can educate the Department of Defense at the time.
Thanks for breaking that down. What are some of the key challenges, and how did NCS help? Looking ahead, what can we expect in 2026 from all of these changes?
I think the key challenges are really just keeping everybody focused on how important this Team Orlando organization is. It's not just the Army. It's the fact that you have all now 5 branches with a presence here in Team Orlando. Collaboration that goes on here is invaluable, and pull out one of those units, the Army being the largest, you risk breaking that whole thing up. And not only impacting very negatively what that means to the military, but it will have a devastating economic effect here. So going forward, our key challenges are, and we've already begun this process, is making sure we have the support of our local community here as we go forth to spread this message going forward. So looking forward to 2026, we're going to expect more of the same in terms of that process. We'll be in, like I said, our delegation will be going to DC in February. We will have the continued interaction. We have extremely strong support from our community and our industry. And, it'll be a year of education in terms of keeping Congress informed, who can then keep the military informed.
That's a great look at both the challenges and what is ahead. Now let's zoom out to the bigger picture. How does the MS&T industry directly support readiness and the warfighter?
Well, I think the fact that we, again, have all the branches of the service here working together is really key. We do all aspects of training here, and everything from enabling soldier readiness and lethality. We support the joint forces. We deliver all types of innovation coming out of here, not only from the military, but we have industry, and we have obviously UCF here, and they all work together. And then lastly, the one that really gets overlooked is this whole foreign military sales aspect. We support over 300 foreign military sales programs around the world in over 50 countries, and quite frankly, nobody else does that. And it's not just modeling and simulation and training work. So, there's a big presence here. We do a lot of stuff here in terms of the back office, I'll say, to support that. So,
building on that, why is this ecosystem essential to the Department of War and national defense efforts?
Well, again, I think just the fact that we have this collection of talent here that can work together, do things cheaper and smarter and faster, I think that makes a big impact. Now, one thing I will say in terms of their effort going forward, and I'm talking about the DoD initiative, is that we here in Team Orlando, we can't kid ourselves either. They want things done faster, smarter, more efficiently, greater technology capabilities. We have to take that to heart. And whether it's government here or industry here, we have to change as well. And I think part of what we can do as NCS is be talking to all those constituencies and make sure, we're not going to get down in your business, but make sure we can kind of give you what the goalposts are moving, and we can help tell you, where we think it's important that you head in terms of how you operate in the long term, because it's going to be a different world. And I think, we have been, I'll be kind and say we've been given a reprieve in terms of these decisions on PEO STRI, but they're looking at us. And quite frankly, they're looking at us to do things different. And that's not only for STRI, that's for everybody. So I think as long as we are all as a collective unit able to embrace that change, I think it speaks well for us going forward. If we dig in and say, this is how we've done it for the last 50 years, and we don't agree with you, and we're going to keep doing this, it's going to be a problem.
That puts the national importance into perspective. Now let's bring it closer to home. Can you discuss the local impact in more detail and why sustaining this community matters most?
Yeah, that's an easy one. This is a very important industry to our community. It generates roughly 45,000 jobs across Central Florida, average salary of about $100,000, which is 2.5 times the median salary in Orange and Seminole County. So it has a significant economic impact, high-paying, high-wage jobs, good jobs. Those are all at risk. It's an $11.6 billion impact to the state of Florida economy. And again, $7 billion worth of contracts come out of this region every year. Most importantly for the military, and I mentioned it before, they don't really have other than the Navy-based piece here, they don't have a capital investment here. The state of Florida has spent $150 million to build almost 500,000 square feet of office space that the Army and the Air Force and the Marines operate out of. So it's a significant impact. This entire Central Florida Research Park was built around this business. It's the 6th largest research park in the country, and if this were to go away, it would be a terrible economic consequence for the area.
That really highlights why this community is very important. Now, what can we expect from NCS in 2026? Any major goals or initiatives on the horizon?
Well, I think as we've previously discussed, obviously the advocacy going forward to protect and grow Team Orlando. Wayman Armstrong's one of our big supporters, and he has a saying that goes out of crisis comes opportunity. So there's opportunities out there, like everybody else that's looking to take pieces of our business. There's an opportunity for us to advocate to get some other pieces of military business down here, and we will be looking at every one of those opportunities. The other thing is we really have always been focused on small business here and helping them develop new technology. We are looking at a couple of different means to get some funding to help with that. One of those is we made an appropriations request through the congressional budget. And so depending on how the budget process goes, it's made it into the appropriation documents. And, so we're tracking that. And we're also talking to some of the larger private corporations about matching funds as well. So stay tuned for that. But we really are hoping to have some development programs going forward that we can work in conjunction with Team Orlando and the Tech Grove.
Looking ahead to 2026 gives us a lot to be excited about. To wrap up, what message would you like to leave with your partners, the industry, and the broader defense community?
Well, before I get into my message, just one more to add on to the last question. The other thing I'm really excited about is the stuff we're doing here with workforce development and STEM education. Lindsay and her team have done just an outstanding job. The lab's redone. We've got the Star-based kids coming through here. Looking forward to the GEMS camps. Those have developed a number of new, leaders. And the thing that's really kind of neat about that is not every kid that goes through these Star-based, these camps, they're not all going to be computer engineers. They're not all going to be aerospace engineers. They're going to be all kinds of different professions going forward, whether it's finance, whether it's communications like yourself. You were a veteran of these things. So whether it's somebody working on human performance or history, there's just a lot of different growth that comes out of these things, and it really gives us an opportunity to give back to our community, the families that have supported us. Now, going forward into the message I want to leave, it's pretty simple. We look forward to your support next year. Please mark your calendars for January 15th, 5:15 to 8:15. We will have our membership night. It will be held between the Partnership 2 and Partnership 3 buildings outside. I think we'll have some tours with IST as well. So look forward to joining us. We'll have great food, cocktails, and plenty of members. The other thing that I'd like to add is I've had several board members tell me that more business gets done in that night than pretty much any event during the year. So come with your business development hat on, but also come and have a good time. Look forward to seeing everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year's, Happy Holidays, whichever one of those fit. And we look forward to seeing all of you next year.
With that, I would like to thank George for joining us on here today. That's a wrap on this episode. Thank you for tuning in. Want to stay in the loop on what's happening in the modeling and simulation and Team Orlando communities? Head to teamorlando.org and follow us on LinkedIn, X, and Facebook for all the latest updates and upcoming events. If you're looking to spotlight your organization or share your voice on AIM on MS&T, sponsorship and guest opportunities are available. Contact us. The information will be in the description. Don't forget to follow AIM on MS&T on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. I will talk to you all in the next one. Bye!